Gavin Lux, he was named National League Player of the Week. Admittedly, it was a short stretch because of the All-Star break. It was more of, as Daniel called it, National League Player of the Weekend. Lux went hitless on Monday, but bounced back tonight. 2 more hits. Drove in a couple runs, like I mentioned early in the first inning. Is it time to start believing in a Gavin Lux turnaround?
Look, me and Jeff were 2 of the last people on the train, on that wagon with Gavin Lux. We both jumped off a little while ago, though. Not gonna lie. But you know what? I was texting with some people tonight after he hit that double, and they said that during the All-Star break he went back to Wisconsin and he worked out with some family that he trusts, some baseball family, and they went to one of the local colleges out there in Kenosha, in the Kenosha area, and really worked on some things with sort of his mechanics and stuff like that. And he, according to them, when he left Wisconsin, he felt really comfortable and in a kind of a good headspace. I don't know how much of that is all translating, if it's just coincidence or what, but something is working for him right now. I really do want to believe, not just because I held on to that stock for so long, but because I think they need him, for whether he stays with this organization or not. They need him to be productive, whether it's for them or to raise his trade value or whatever the situation may be. But he's the guy they were counting on to really lift the bottom of that order. Remember, I think coming into the season, the whole thought was like, man, if he hits ninth and he can really start to take those next steps, boy, when he's on base for Mookie and Ohtani and Freddie, like that was sort of what the ideal version of this lineup was. And then it just didn't pan out for him. But if he can really start to produce at just a serviceable rate, right? Like, I mean, give us a 100 OPS plus or something like that. Like, let's start at that baseline now. Yeah. That it's a boost for them, because considering how bad the bottom of that order has been, if he can do something like that and get going, that's a huge win for them.
Yeah, I think he struggled for so long this season, and I know you and I were in the same boat, and I did. You and Jeff, like you said, you guys hung on longer than I did, and I felt like I gave him a lot of leash of trying to set, buying some time. I wasn't expecting him to hit the ground running, right? The fact of the matter is, he's coming back from a significant surgery. You're off that amount of time. You're not seeing live pitching. Like, you're going to have to adjust. What concerned me is I felt like it got pretty late into the season, and we hadn't really even seen like too many flashes, right? Like, he didn't necessarily put together like a strong week. And I thought, okay, like, there it is. Like, it's still there. He can kind of turn things around. It was like 1 or 2 games maybe, and then struggles again. And then maybe one good game and then struggles.
And you know what, to that point, Matt, like, if Max hadn't gotten hurt, if Chris Taylor was not a complete embarrassment for the better part of the season, stuff like that, Lux might not have even gotten the opportunities at a certain point. Like, that's how uncompetitive his at bats were. But I think that so many other guys were so bad, Kike Hernandez included, that you could name a whole bunch of guys. But the fact that everybody was so bad meant that they kept running him out there. And I think, Dave's quote early on was something like, let's give him whatever it was, 150 plate appearances or something like that, and then we'll judge. Well, the runway's been a whole lot longer than that, but it's been because everybody else was terrible. Guys are starting to come around now, it looks like. But for Lux, that's a guy that I think they really want to get going, because they held him out of trades in the past. He was their untouchable guy. They've really tried to make him a pillar of what this team can be going forward, and he has not answered it yet. We'll see. Obviously the jury's still out. The question, is it time to believe in him? It's time to have hope.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And I think what's an interesting layer to all of this too is, you said it, the Dodgers, they need Gavin Lux to, get productive, even if it's just league average at this point, right? Salvage your season that way. If he starts to do that, though, the domino effect means keeping Mookie Betts at shortstop. And sure, maybe maybe you finish this season with
Yeah,
that, but then still moving forward, like, is that really the answer? And so it's just kind of an interesting, like, it's almost a double-edged sword, right? Like, you need
sure.
and want Gavin Lux to start producing, but if he does, and you keep him at, like, he's going to be playing second base. He's not playing any other position.
Yeah.
That then means unless the Dodgers move Mookie back to right field, he's going to be your shortstop, which I think we saw some negative effects to that.
Yeah, I think so. That wasn't a great experiment. I think you can write it out for the rest of this season. Maybe Mookie comes back in September and he's pretty refreshed. Even if he comes back in August, I think he'll be okay. Um, they can address that issue later on. I think though that yes, you do have to play Gavin at second base because I've said this and I've said this a bunch of times. I think Miguel Rojas for as much of a cult favorite as he's become, he's he's in the role that he's in for a reason. And it's not a guy that you would want to run out there for 500, 600 plate appearances in a season. He's been admirable in what they've asked him to do so far this year, but um, he's better in the role that they originally had him slotted in. And so if Lux can produce and keep Rojas in that position where maybe he's still going to play a bunch because he's going to be a defensive replacement at some point. He's going to get some starts here or there. So I don't think it's like he disappears, but that's going to be a fairly decent good problem to have if Lux puts them in that position.
Yeah. And at least the long term concern, you worry about that later. You just get through this
Right.
season.
You try to win this one now this year,
Yeah.
and you will figure that out in the winter.
Yeah, definitely. But hey, like we said, credit to Gavin Lux for at minimum giving reason for hope.